Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. Let me start off with the first edit of Edwin Dande. He's the CEO and founder of Saiton. His Mindspeak presentation that he made on Saturday. This is the entire clip. Have a listen. I think he shines a torch on a lot of issues that have been swirling out there. I also did a short video of my article about Saudi Arabia, the Crown Prince. I called it the capture of a 32-year-old wannabe king and the future price of crude oil. And the cast list runs from Bibi Netanyahu to MBS, MBZ, Jared Kushner, Khamenei, Donald Trump's carte blanche, and Hassan Nasrallah of Hezbollah. Macro thoughts. BlackRock's Fink says we're seeing synchronized growth worldwide for the first time since the financial crisis. Home thoughts. Paddington on a sunny day where joyful arrivals and sorrowful departures mingle with the smells of trains and coffee. Over 1,000 rangers have been killed in the last 10 years. It makes you really angry, makes you very sad, said Prince William. I like this photograph from Reuters. Traditional dhows sailed by close to the island of Lamu. In August 2013, I wrote about the Indian Ocean regaining its glory days, and I was quoting Felipe Fernández-Armesto, who explains why the precocity of the Indian Ocean as a zone of a long-range navigation and cultural exchange is one of the glaring facts of history, made possible by the reversible escalator of the monsoon. What it meant was the wind blew you from as far as India all the way to Mozambique, and then it turned around and blew you all the way back. And it was that created this long-range navigation, cultural exchange, and economy, the Indian Ocean economy. Here is a photograph I took of Ali the Navigator, who was navigating us on a dhow to Wasini Island, where you can taste the most fabulous fresh crabs. And this, I just took the sunset photo with my phone on the Hippo dhow. That's Brian Kimani again in Lamu. I like this, the dynamism of Richard Prince's 1989 photograph, untitled Cowboy, whisks viewers across plains of stereotypical pageantry. Saatchi Gallery. And then finally, this is from MIT. Keep this chart handy when you're identifying potential leaders in your company. Political reflections, rare and haunting scenes from Rakhine State as Alex Crawford of Sky News brings back the first images of hundreds of scared Rohingya waiting to flee. It's terrible, and I fully applaud Bob Geldof's sentiments on this matter, I must say. President Erdoğan meets with President Putin of Russia. Cellmates, one imagines. Trump has a long way to go on the road to fixing US-China trade. There is no silver bullet, I'm afraid. China continues to rise, as I said in August. US leader Donald Trump's repeated use of Indo-Pacific over Asia-Pacific on his Asian tour signals a new quadrilateral plan to counter China. This is interesting. As US President Trump wraps up his 13-day Asia tour, questions are already being asked why he repeatedly used the term Indo-Pacific rather than the more conventional Asia-Pacific in his public comments. America's leader used the term several times in Japan and South Korea and in Vietnam, and said he was honored to be visiting the heart of the Indo-Pacific. The answer lies in what happened shortly after the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Manila on Sunday. On the sidelines of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit, senior officials from America, Japan, India, and Australia met for quadrilateral talks, indication that the disbanded Quadrilateral Society dialogue may be resurrected. I suppose that's going to replace the pivot to Asia. India's External Affairs Ministry said in a statement afterwards that the four nations agree that a free, open, prosperous and inclusive Indo-Pacific region serves the long-term interests of all countries in the region and of the world at large. The Indo-Pacific is a pithy slogan to describe the vision of what policymakers once called the quadrilateral, or Quad, an alliance between the four democracies designed to build a free, open and peaceful region. The Atlantic has released a report headlined "The Secret Correspondence Between Donald Trump Jr. and WikiLeaks." That link is on which wrap-ups the messages show WikiLeaks, a radical transparency organization that the American intelligence community believes was chosen by the Russian government to disseminate the information it had hacked, actively soliciting Trump Jr.'s cooperation. 5th of December, I said we have a deviate tomahawk. Donald Trump Jr. has published the entire chain of messages with WikiLeaks and his 3 whopping responses, he says. And I said in December, the first thing is plausible deniability. It's just lost that. The second thing is non-linearity. This is a complete connection. Then I said, from feeding the hothouse conspiracy frenzy online, a constant state of destabilized perception, timely and judicious doses of WikiLeaks leaks which drained Hillary's bona fides and her turnout and motivated Trump's. What we have witnessed is something remarkable and noteworthy. Seth Abramson, anytime you see in the news that an email about Russia was sent to this person, Hope X, it means that email was seen by Trump. Don Jr., Papadopoulos, Page, and others appear to have used Hicks as an email launderer. She shows emails to Trump he can later claim he never saw. First thing is plausible deniability, second thing is non-linearity. Assange asking to be Australian ambassador to the court of Trump kind of makes Trump's early disastrously abrasive call to Australian PM Turnbull curious. Then Matthew Iglesias tweeted, embattled Trump regime orders chief prosecutor to launch investigation of former opposition leader. FT has got an interesting piece about Xinjiang. Measures of control have resulted in a feeling that southern Xinjiang has become an open-air prison. A new regional network of more than 7,300 police monitoring stations, 500 meters apart in urban areas, plays cheerful tunes, even as armed guards stand outside. As fears in Beijing grow over terrorism along China's borders, so have the numbers of people under surveillance. I concluded by saying it's a laboratory experiment in control and surveillance. International markets, the disappearance of yield, one of the best IMF charts, zero hedge. Currency markets, euro, dollar 116.72, dollar index 94.47, Japanese yen, where's that, 113.63, Swiss franc 0.9964, the pound 131.16, the Australian dollar 0.7635, Indian rupee 65.465, South Korean won 1117.82, the Real 327.96, Egyptian pound 17.6497, and the big mover yesterday, dollar rand. Rand blew through my 1440 target. It's now just shy of 1450. We'll touch on that in a moment. The pound fell sharply yesterday, about 1%, as political pressure on Theresa May added to her Brexit problems, last trading at 131.15. UK political chaos seeping into sterling. UK pound most volatile relative to the euro since May. Jamie at Reuters. The chart he's showing shows the spread between 1 month sterling and 1 month euro dollar implied volatility, which is the widest since May. GE runs into doubts on Wall Street over dividend cut. CEO vision. Tumbled more than 10% after company cuts dividend for the second time since the Great Depression. Bitcoin daily price swings make one of Asia's most volatile currencies look like a currency that's pegged. Take a look at this from David Inglis. Let's move on to the commodity markets. The biggest news in the gold market is that there is no news. Gold was last trading just shy of 1277. My piece over the weekend was about the capture of a 32-year-old wannabe king and the future price of crude oil. Crude oil last trading around $56.62 in New York, about just over $1 off its 2-year high. Emerging market bonds see the biggest yield jump since Trump victory. Bloomberg Barclays index of hard currency emerging market bonds has fallen for 6 straight days, capping the biggest weekly yield jump since last year when Donald Trump's victory spurred a sell-off in risk assets. The gauge shows average borrowing costs for governments and companies in developing nations have risen to a 4-month high of 4.68%. Look at this comparison between the Hang Seng index, the best performing developed market index, and Mongolia. Mongolia is obviously the outperformer. Sub-Saharan Africa, US Africa Command, or AFRICOM, has launched more strikes in Somalia in 2017 than in any previous year of the air campaign. US military continues to intensify its air campaign in Somalia against Shabab and its rival the Islamic State. AFRICOM has launched more strikes in 2017 than in any previous year of the air campaign. This month, American targeting expanded to include the Islamic State. An AFRICOM spokeswoman told the AP that these 3 attacks raised the 2017 total to 26. 5 have taken place since November 9. The Long War Journal has tracked 21 strikes from AFRICOM press releases and has requested information on the 5 undisclosed attacks. Shabab is seen touting a deadly raid on a Somali military base. This is via Long War Journal. It's a short video. Detailed a deadly raid on a Somali military base near the southern port town of Kismayo that took place 2 months ago. The assault, which took place on September the 2nd, left over 20 Somali military personnel dead, far more than Somali officials admitted to after the attack. Shabab detailed the attack in a video entitled "And Be Harsh Against Them." The video, which was released today, includes dramatic footage of the nighttime assault, which included a massive suicide car bombing and Shabab fighters entering the base, clashing with Somali soldiers and executing survivors. Shabab's strike on the Bala Gadoud base began with its signature pattern, a large suicide car bombing to soften the perimeter before an assault team enters the fray. The video shows the pre-dawn suicide bombing before turning to the actual raid on the base. At the time, Somali officials reported that at least 10 soldiers were killed in the attack. However, Shabab claimed to have killed 26 soldiers. The video appears to confirm the larger number, as dozens of dead Somali soldiers are shown sprawled throughout the base. Shabab fighters shoot any who appear to be alive. So we've clearly seen a big escalation in Somalia, and it continues to escalate. Of course, that was the biggest suicide bombing not too many weeks ago. It's not clear to me how this trajectory is clearly going in the wrong direction and how it's sort of reined in. The economies of Africa ranked by GDP. This is from Renaissance Capital. African economic growth rides on wireless rails, Bloomberg View. From the Atlantic to the Indian Ocean, handheld phones are letting people become their own ATMs, increasing economic activity by enabling payments for food, travel, school and business. Wireless communication is driving economic growth in sub-Saharan Africa, much as the railroad did in the 19th century. In the US, accounting for almost a tenth of global mobile subscribers and a growth rate that's beating the world. The transformation is reflected in more than 1,300 publicly traded companies that make up corporate Africa. The value of communications firms increased during the past 5 years to 25%. The total market cap of African companies, up from 16%, according to Bloomberg. Materials and energy, the natural resources benchmarks that define the region since its colonial days, diminished to a combined 18% from 27% during the same period. Nowhere is the trend more pronounced than in Ghana, where the value of products and services produced by the information ICT sector surged 239% since 2012. By far the fastest growth of any economic sector, such explosive growth helped Ghana improve its creditworthiness and lower the average cost of public and private borrowing to 6.7% from 9.1% during the past 12 months. Safaricom isn't the biggest of the world's telecommunication giants. Its annual sales are about 3% of the average of the world's 60 largest carriers, but its products and services are changing Africa, boosting its bottom line, attracting global investors. Analysts say that Safaricom's revenues will rise 10% next year, more than triple the average of those 60 telecommunications giants after sales increase of 13% in 2016. The company is more profitable than most of its 60 global peers, turning $100 of revenue into $23 of net income in 2016, twice the average. While its shares have gained 140% since 2014, more than 4 times the group average, Safaricom still trades at a 33% discount to its global rivals on a price-to-earnings basis, according to Bloomberg. A 2016 study credited M-Pesa with increasing daily per capita consumption levels of about 2% of Kenyan households that had been subsisting on less than $1.25 per day. The study by Tanvit Suri, an associate professor at MIT's Sloan School of Management, and William Jack, an economist at Georgetown University, shows that mobile money services relieve extreme poverty by enabling men and women to produce and sell goods and services in self-designed markets beyond the boundaries of their subsistence farms. The development is especially useful for women seeking financial independence in male-headed households. Very interesting article, and that plays to the point that I made in the piece I wrote on the 6th of November after Safaricom released their first half earnings. And I said Safaricom is a big beast at the NSE, carrying a market capitalization of 1 trillion shillings. Then I looked into the results. Zimbabwean army signals split with Mugabe over firing of deputies. Zimbabwe's armed forces commander Constantine Chiwenga called for an end to purges in President Mugabe's ruling party and said the security services would stop those bent on hijacking the revolution, signaling a split with the 93-year-old leader. Chiwenga, speaking alongside the commanders of the army and air force, was commenting on the upheaval in the ruling ZANU PF following Mugabe's dismissal of Emerson Mnangagwa, his vice president, a week ago, and his subsequent expulsion from the ruling party. Mnangagwa, who is an ally of Chiwenga, fled the southern African nation on December the 8th because of incessant threats against him and his family. It is with humility and a heavy heart we come before you to pronounce the indisputable reality that there is instability in ZANU-PF today, and as a result, anxiety in the country at large, he told reporters at the King George IV military barracks in Harare. This is a new and potentially dangerous twist to the politics of the country, Eldred Masungure, a professor of political science at the University of Zimbabwe, said. It's the toxic insertion of the military and will sour relations between the military and the government. We are now at the age that Hunter S. Thompson said there is no honest way to explain it, because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over. Think Bitcoin's getting expensive? Try Zimbabwe. The result, a startling Bitcoin's global surge to a record $7,888 last week. Sevenfold increase since the start of the year has been spectacular enough. But on Harari's Bitcoin exchange, the price hit $13,900, a 40-fold jump in the same period. Zimbabweans are piling into anything they think might retain value. Prices of cars, real estate and stocks have all soared, with the Harare Bourse's main industrial index doubling in the last 2 months. President Zuma did an interview with An TV in South Africa. He said, "It is a reality, I was poisoned. Some people wanted me dead." Quite interesting timing. South African all-short share up 18.1%. The big move, of course, was dollar rand. Look at this correlation chart from Nico FX. You see what I'm talking about, a dramatic move. The rand was at 14.52 per dollar, having tumbled as much as 1.1% to 14.5425, its weakest level since November 2016. Government bonds June 2026 also weakened. Yields on paper climbed 14.5 basis points, highest level since May 2016. 5-year credit IFOL swaps clocked a 4-month high. Eskom said it was not insolvent, but was facing serious liquidity issues. The Treasury confirmed Michael Sachs' resignation, saying he wanted to join the civil service in a different capacity. Fin24 said Sachs resigned over interference by Zuma at the Treasury. Take a look at this dollar rand chart. It's in serious trouble now. South Africa's Eskom, as I said they're not insolvent, but facing cash flow trouble. Nigerian all shares up 38.84% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange up 42.63% year to date. I like this, the wild escape Singita in the Grumeti. Airline revenue of $1.2 billion is blocked across Africa, says IATA. Of the total 1.2 billion, Angola has blocked the largest amount, 500 million. Sudan has held up 200 million. Nigeria owed airliners 600 million, but as of October, the amount had fallen to $221 million. Here in Kenya, the countdown to the November 20 deadline for the judgment on the petition against President Kenyatta is obviously the key deadline. Kenya Airways, have a look at the link for the share price data. They've made a public announcement on the acquisition by the government of Kenya of effective control over 48.9% of the ordinary voting shares. On top of that, new shareholders will be several commercial banks, possibly as many as 11, who will own 34% of the airline. Kenya shilling is at 103.55 last. Nairobi all shares up 20.25% year to date. NSE20 is up 17.59% year to date. Thank you for stopping by.